Hey everyone, Ron Newcomb here with the Indie Coach Podcast. I'm here with Daniel Mays, and we're going to jump right into it. Instead of me doing an introduction, Daniel, I'd love to just kind of, for the audience, just kind of give a little bit of update on how you began your journey in filmmaking and what led you to the creation of DutchAngle.com.
Sure. Nice for having me, Ron. So, yeah, I started actually in the music industry. So I was a DJ in the 90s, in the early 90s. Um, I played in a lot of clubs in Belgium, start making music, my own music, house music, obviously, which I end up having a couple of hits in the early 2000s. But that allowed me also to buy some equipment, some small camera. If I remember, there was the 150 Sony something camera, a DV cam. That was the a great a great cheap camera. But we started experimenting. That's my wife, because I know her already for many years. Um, Making corporate films, making short films, also shot on Super 16. And then eventually, yeah, hooking up with writers, finding good scripts, and raise funds and make a feature. And my first feature was with Steve Guttenberg, Cornered, in 2007. We shot it in LA. And yeah, so it started with music. Music is still now already in my life. I think music is very important, especially also in films.
Oh, yeah.
But then, yeah, that's how we started Dutch Angle, and then after that, this whole other thing that happened, basically by making a movie, um, I started attracting also a lot of Americans and British people, filmmakers, to Belgium, in order to optimize on the tax credit here, on the tax shelter and all that. But that's after I started as a DJ.
What is the tax credit there?
The tax credit is about 37, 36, 47% on the local spend.
Wow.
So that's quite a lot, but there's also some caps. So I mean, the film has to be a European film. And then you also have to have other spend besides Belgium, because you cannot just tax shelter 100%. You also need quite some European spend outside of Belgium. Not UK spent, not US spent, but European spent. Very important. So there's a balance that needs to be made, and I know, and that's what I do a lot the with the conversations with users in the States. Is like, make this finance plan that's also realistic, because you can put all those tax credits in and it looks great. You don't need any funding anymore, but at the end, you may be missing 500K when calculated smartly.
Yeah. Is it hard to get, and do you get it pretty quickly, or does it take some time?
For a tax shelter in Belgium,
Yeah.
that's straightforward. There's tax shelters, so there are intermediaries and banks that raise the funds. That's not a problem. It's a tax credit against Belgian spend. So we spend 100K, we get 47,000, 46,000 in cash on the bank account, weekly basis. That's not a problem. So the good thing about the tax shelter is you don't have to cash flow it with the bank, because the money is already there, is already raised. So it's not like a tax incentive where you have to find a bank or a financier where you have to cash flow the whole thing. That's not necessary. Now, you may have to cash flow it if you deal with a completion bond, because they request to be on the bank account at day one, at closing. However, if you work with a bank like BNP Paribas Fortis, ING Bank, completion bonds are, feel more secure that the money will be there when needed, because that's the whole point about the bonding, that the movie is fully financed.
Gotcha. What's been the biggest challenge you faced in balancing the creativity with the business side of filmmaking?
That's a very good question. The thing is, when we are creative, it takes some time to get into it, but once you're in it, it's it's fun. It's always fun, because it's like a writer. A writer, he starts writing, he has ideas, then he has a writer's block, but he perceives, and he still goes. That's a thing with creativity. But then as a producer, you have to jump out of it and then do the numbers, do all the phone calls, the Zoom calls, everything. And then you have to dive into the creativity again. So it's very hard to adapt and to you know it's very tough. But that's typically the job for a producer is to find that balance. And once I sometimes you have to certainly production and pre-production you have to keep going, and you don't have time to think anymore. You just have to execute. But you know, between projects, it's always good to be get out to get out of that uh, practical thinking and also try to let the fantasy flow. I think it's very important. You can only do that when you have, you know, when you're not in production. Otherwise, you don't have the time for that.
Yeah. Do you also produce your own stuff?
Yes, of course. I mean, a lot of co-productions, but we have a lot of projects ready to go. But we're gonna fund them ourselves. We're not gonna rely on other financiers, which we do a lot also. But those are gonna be uh, funded by our investors. But the problem is there's always so many productions coming along. So we also have to spend time on that. But development keeps going, you know. So I mean, you don't have to talk with the writers every day. You get a draft, you'll read it, you give your revisions, and then the writer can do his job. So that's the cool thing about development. You don't have to be on it all the time. In production, it's totally different. It's you have to be on top of things all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I do a little writing myself. I definitely produce my own stuff out of default. But love so from your experience, how important is like personal branding or branding for filmmakers, and how can indie creators craft their own personal brand or project brand?
Yeah, that's also a good questions. You keep asking great questions. It's a tough one, I think. With the new fast channel model, it might be even more important to. I mean, it's basically like Spotify. You know, you can release music on Spotify, and what's going to happen? Nothing. So you have to create your own brand around your person as a composer or as a band. Same thing maybe for filmmakers, but at some level, when you make movies with star cast, you know, let's say above the 5-6 million, it's a different story. I think it's more like a business, and it's more like who you have in the film, you know, uh, and not like, okay, my brand this and my brand that. I think the most important thing as a filmmaker is getting the good scripts, and it's really tough to get those. To be honest.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah,
It's more important. Good scripts are more important than branding yourself as a writer, producer. Good script is just most important thing.
yeah, definitely agree. How do you approach building and nurturing professional relationships and networking um, in the industry, but being outside of Hollywood?
Yeah, I made my first movie in Hollywood, and I mean, I lived for 30 years in Hollywood, so I was pretty into Hollywood. Also, my lawyers were really established at that time, and we got a lot of introductions. So that was good. But then we moved to Belgium again. The thing is, when you have the occasion to meet influential people, don't bullshit them. Just deliver what you promise. If you don't have nothing to offer, just shut up. Everyone is there to get something, right? Not to give something. When you give something to an actor, let's say the script this actor needs, yeah, then you have something to give. But you have to give, otherwise nothing's gonna happen. I mean, I get all of emails every day, like, okay, we need this, we need that. Okay, but what do you have? That's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it all does start.
Sure. Yeah. So what happened then after my LA experience? People kept coming back to me, and I keep delivering, and then the word of mouth keeps going. It doesn't matter where you are. I mean, many people in LA moved out of LA also, and they're still in business. So LA is the brain, is the brain of the movie business. That's not gonna change. But making the movies, I mean, in my position being in Europe, I can do a lot from here, and I can offer a lot from Europe. I mean, like good crew rates, no unions, just really talented people, and that's why Americans come to here. So if they have a question, they can just ask me, and I can help them with the process.
Yeah,
That's one of the things I do a lot also.
yeah, awesome. Um, who do you think is making the best films right now and why? And maybe kind of as a follow-up too, like who are you a fan of?
I was a Spielberg kid. I mean, I was a teenager in the 80s. So Spielberg, and Lucas, of course. Those two, I mean, those two made the movies that made me into a movie maker. For sure. I mean, Spielberg is so well known for his blogging, how he put the camera and all that. I mean, there's a lot you can learn about that. I still see a lot of mistakes I mean, I made all the mistakes you can imagine, but I see a lot of mistakes from directors in how they blog a scene. And if a camera moves, you need a reason to move. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense, right? So you have to think about it. And I understand when you have like a 25-day shoot, you don't have time to do all the blogging, but you have to. You need to know the movie in top of your head and do all the things.
Yeah.
It's a very hard job. So yeah, he's still my number one, I think, on old school. So yeah, Christopher Nolan is awesome, of course. Quentin Tarantino, I love a lot. But in terms of style and emotion, I'm more Spielberg. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I grew up in the 80s too, so it's the same. I mean, the nostalgia of it, but to your point, I also think that he's a top-notch professional. I mean, his eye, he's great because he's popular because he is truly great at what he does. How do you balance innovation in your filmmaking style with audience expectation?
You mean visionary?
Yeah.
Like AI, the use of AI, those things?
Rats.
Yeah, I'm really keen on technology. I'm using technology uh all the time, and it started with spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet fan. That's just a piece of technology, but of course you have ChatGPT and then all the AIs that are coming out right now. I think it's great. It's something you cannot stop, but you don't want to come across generic. So don't ask ChatGPT to write me this email and just copy paste. I mean, it's what you put into it. That's very important. And I think if we just keep going on AI, I think you could say like, okay, AI is gonna take over the movie business or the movie industry, like the creative industries or the music industries. You could say that, and yeah, that's gonna happen, But at some to some extent, I think. Um, but what's gonna happen too is that really creative and smart people are gonna use those tools and still add the human touch to it. And those will be the guys or the people that will be successful. Uh, I mean, maybe the standard will be just raised a little bit with AI. I mean, you just want to make the best possible movie, and if your movie is the best because you have this technology, but you also use the creativity of the writers, then you have a winner, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, it is just a tool. I completely agree.
It's a tool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's great. I mean, the world is changing very fast right now. Everything is changing. What's going to happen the next 3, 4, 5 years? We cannot imagine. We don't know that. It's really impactful, very impactful. It's exciting. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, and me too. I completely agree. I've seen some people that have really embraced AI, particularly on LinkedIn. There's a couple people, and what they've been able to do. It's not all in AI. They can do like 70% of it in AI, and then they pull it into like a visual effects application. But you can see where it potentially is going. So yeah, I agree. It's amazing.
Just on the visual side on AI, if it's AI, it's still some, it has this generic look. So we have to, I don't know if it's possible that, but if you create an AI, and you could just recreate it or export it in polygons in 3D space, that would be interesting. Then you can just create something crazy and then you just 3D it. And once it's in 3D space, you can do whatever you want in the movies. And you can model it a little bit, and then that would be interesting. I don't know, maybe it exists already. That would be this.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some 3D elements that they've been coming out with recently where they can take a space and then make it 3D and pull it in. I mean, in minutes. It's amazing. That's usually environmental though. I haven't seen people yet though. It's probably going to go there. One of the things that I learned in filmmaking when I sold my first film about 5 years ago, my first film was before that, but about 5 years ago and before, it used to be about 60% was sold in the States and then 40% was international. With globalization in mind, how critical is the international market today for indie filmmakers?
If you want to pre-sell, if you have actors, you need to pre-sell, you need international. I mean, that's my experience. I also see there are movies being made in the States for a couple of million, like the movie of the week type of things. That's a different niche. But if you make a movie of 5, 6, 7 million, you need the international market. But the thing is, if you sell in the US, if you have a great distribution deal in the US, that raises the value of your international sales. That's very important. So you can leverage on that. If not, I mean, another strategy is to just resell international and keep US open and then don't sell it, because when it becomes a hit, yeah, you get a better price. So it depends a little bit the budget level you have. But when you go above 10, 15 million, then you better have like a US domestic deal for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. In current times, that percentage I mentioned, 60% domestic, 40% international, it's now switched and it keeps growing. So it's now 40% domestic, 60% international. So if you're a filmmaker out there and you're not thinking globally, you need to change that perspective. The world is getting smaller. You need to think about international.
For sure, yeah. It used to be 60-40, that's true, and then it became 50-50, and it reversed.
Yeah.
That's for sure, but there's also a lot of competition, and you also have the streamers that just buy out the whole property. So yeah, so that element, and then that doesn't matter anymore what the balance is. But it's true. You have to think in an international, and if you want to be international, you also have to make sure it's. I mean, this is for the Americans. Don't make it too American, because people don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is flavor. I like a lot. I like that flavor. That's not a problem. But when you sell something internationally, you really need to be more universal in your approach, which still is still good for the US as well, of course. So
Yeah. With the international market kind of opening up, and I've seen some films lately, Squid Games and things like that. We also have the second Game of Thrones series that didn't have significant star power. How does star power play in today's market? Does it still matter?
yes, it does. Not for the streamers, it's another thing, and I really like that. We like the evolution that you don't need stars in order to make a very interesting series. That's good, because we don't basically want to see great stories and good performances. But if you're making, financing, producing an indie film, you need the stars.
Yeah.
If you want to pre-sale, otherwise you don't have anything. And you could just gamble on a couple of stars that are well known but not known enough, that not gonna give you the box in order to close your financing. So you have to aim pretty high in order to do to finance the movie. So yeah.
Yeah, no, particularly for international pre-sales, which are now they've gotten smaller, but that's solely based upon who's in your film. If to your point, if you don't have anybody really in there, the international market right now is just it's difficult to pre-sell. So star power very much still matters.
Well, and also one of the genres that's very, I mean, that at least in Europe, the distributors like a lot is action movies. They really like those the pure action movies, because that's something they can advertise on, and it's like it's gonna give them so many more subscriptions and all that. Yes. Yeah, good action movies but it's also another budget range. You don't make a big action movie for 5 million. It's gonna be way more expensive. You get bigger cast. You have to do the play offer and all that. So it's different.
Yeah, it is a different animal. What's one filmmaking tool or piece of gear that you couldn't live without? Or, maybe some new tech thing beyond AI. What's a piece of gear or tool that you couldn't live without?
One tool I could not live without. It's a word processor. It's an old tool, but without that, it's gonna be tough. All the rest, whatever. Yeah. And then the second is a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, there's so many budget applications out there, and for not all of them, but for most of them, I'm still using just the spreadsheet.
Yeah. For budgeting, yeah. I mean, you can do that. I prefer the movie Magic still, but it's I mean, if you only have one trace, then you just I started with a word processor, and then I scale up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like asking this question because I do think it's coming from a spirit of trying to help filmmakers. Where do you see filmmakers blowing it the most, and how can they avoid these mistakes?
The script. What I should have done when I was younger is not concentrate enough on the script and the quality of the script. Now, the thing is, if you start out, you don't know what a good script is. Right. Because you read it, oh, it's great. Oh, I see the images, it's great. That's not enough. You have to read a lot of scripts. You don't have to read 10 scripts, not 100 more. You have to read a lot of scripts. And you start with the classics, with the Die Hard, with in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and those scripts. You have to read them. E.T. was a great script. So yeah, you have to read them, and you have to understand how the characters are built up and how they evolve. If it's just Bond and a boring character, nobody cares. It can jump off a roof and stuff. Nobody cares. Who is this? So script is so important. So concentrate on that, and instead of packaging or try to sell your project, focus on the script before you do that.
Yeah, Corey is definitely king. What's the best advice you've ever received, and how has it ultimately shaped your career?
Yeah, I come out of a totally different business. My parents were not into the movies, so I had to figure it out all myself. It's maybe not an advice from out of the movie industry, but just a general advice. What you're spending. What you're spending. Don't spend too much. Also for starting filmmakers, if you never made a movie or directed a movie, make something for 10K, 20K. Don't try to do 100K or 500 or a million. Don't do that. Just build up. Make something that's really interesting for next to nothing. Yeah. That's I mean, my advisor would give, and also the advice I got when at early age is to do something with as little as possible, because spending money, that's the easiest thing. That's very easy.
Yeah, that's a great.
Can do it once. That's the process.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Rodriguez, right? He had a cheat. Exactly. He had that, a turtle. He had the guitar case, and he was like, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do." So use what you have.
But that's storytelling.
Oh,
That's the storytelling.
exactly.
And that's great. It was enjoyable.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. How do you personally stay inspired and keep the passion alive in this industry? That's not an easy one. I always feel it's a little elusive for me, but how do you stay inspired and keep the passion?
Watch Joe Rogan. I watch a lot of podcasts. Um, that inspires me. My inspiration doesn't come out of the movie business, to be honest. It comes out of the world, of the society, of everything. And I'm inspired as an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur that happened to be in the movie business. So you call me a producer, whatever, but actually I'm an entrepreneur, and that gives me a good feeling. And I think there are exciting times ahead. So that's where inspiration comes from.
Yeah. Are there any life-changing books that you would recommend for filmmakers? Any books?
Yeah, I mean, books about storytelling. The it's been a while I read movie books, to be honest. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's with today, like podcast and Audible and books online, there's no reason why you shouldn't be continuously learning. Do you have any podcasts that you listen to? You mentioned Joe Rogan. Are there any others that you listen to pretty consistently that you get stuff from?
In the movie business, about movie business.
Maybe just, yeah, anything that inspires you, any podcasts out there that you're like, man, this is great.
Yeah, Lex Friedman, that's the other guy. I mean, those made their money more, huh? But I like to listen to people that know something I don't know.
Yeah.
And what I do then in my brain is, okay, I learned something, which is not filmmaking, but how do we translate that into storytelling?
Yeah.
So, and that allows me to give some other ideas to writers than just staying in that same story all over again. Like, okay, this movie, that, no, life, just refer to life, what happens in life. I think that's, for me, works pretty well. But yeah, I mean, for books, the writer's journey, that's a classic. I'm old school, but it works. It still works. And you need a hero, and you need all those elements. And if they're well placed in your script, you make a hit. You make a big blockbuster.
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, no, you need to know the basics. You need to know, as you indicated before, the classics. It's almost like a martial art where you get to a point where you're a black belt, and then you have your own martial art at that point. It's you've taken everything you've learned and you become the master. And that's the only way to get to mastery, I think. So you have to you need to know the basics in order to build up to create your own.
True. True. And then it comes out of your soul, out of yourself. It's very important to but you need to feed your brain with stuff. And where is that coming from? For me, it comes out of the, I mean, all movies are based on real life, right? So where can get you all your source information?
Yep.
In real life, I think.
Yeah, completely agree. How does one create longevity and find contentment in this industry? I think a lot of people that I see in the industry, they're not really content. They're always looking for the next thing. So I'm trying to, as I talk to people, find out how they create longevity and contentment in the filmmaking industry.
Yeah, I think you have to keep going, and don't be very patient, but you have to keep going. And good things will happen, but learn from your mistakes. Because you can be on a path that leads to I mean, let's look at a production. You have a script and you think it's going to be great, and you're working on that 7 years. And I have some scripts like I'm working on 7 years, but you have to bet on a little bit more horses than just one project. You have to diversify, but don't sell your soul. Just do things you really are you really like, and speak the truth. I mean, don't just do movies because, oh, it's great. No, there should be something of yourself you recognize, I think. And if that's in it, then it's so much powerful, and that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a transaction. You can work in a bank. That's fine too. I mean, it's a choice you made, but I'm not a banker.
No, exactly.
Make sense?
Yeah, completely. Yep. Yep. Are there any upcoming projects that you have that you're excited about?
All of them, yeah, all of them. Yeah, I cannot share any titles at this moment, but there are quite a few.
Yeah.
If you were financing also, and also at different levels of also found footage, all kind of horror movies as well.
Oh, awesome.
So I like the 1 million features. I'm not against that. I like the approach. It's totally different. It's a small crew, but it works. It's fun. And then you have the bigger movies, but that's another world. It's more like a corporation, big corporation. You have to run. To have those, yeah, some great things to offer. I think. I mean, it's always storytelling. That's just the point. If you make a horror movie, people need to be scared. That's a whole goal. And if that works, you're happy, right? That's cool. It worked.
Exactly. Yeah. You've met the expectation of what you set out to do.
Yes.
Where can our listeners connect and support Dutch Angle? Do you have social media? Where should they go to if they're
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And not so much on the other platforms, but on LinkedIn I try to give some information or some thoughts about things. I also posted a lot of insights on film financing and those things and how it works, so people can just type in my name and then they will probably find me. Um, and I think LinkedIn is a really cool platform to connect. People can reach out if they have something to offer. They can just reach out and or connect and reach out. That's fine. My answers might be very short, but if it's good, I will just we can move forward because there's so many things coming in. But yeah, definitely on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So we're kind of coming down to the wire. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share? And again, the main audience is a filmmaker.
Yeah, I would always focus on the script writing. That's it's storytelling. That it's a business about storytelling. And if something happened in your life that inspires you, go with that. Make something out of it. But don't be never stop. Don't care about your own emotions. I mean, shit happens all the time, so you have to just move forward. Never stop. Always keep going. Keep going. But learn from your mistakes. Don't be stubborn. Learn from your mistakes. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, learn how to present yourself, for example.
Yeah.
True makers, they don't care about all those things, but everything is important. You're dealing with people. They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. You can say, or many filmmakers say the word like, "Oh, this is an exciting project I have." Yeah, for you. I don't know you. I don't know your project. I don't care. I just care what it's about. So all those words, keep them from yourself. Only facts and things that work. If it works, people will recognize that. But try to exaggerate and all those things. This doesn't work, and it's tiring, to be honest. So be very clear and what you offer. And in my case, you can just say, "Oh, we need this. Can you do it?" Very short. That's fine. That's fine. I don't want to read emails of 20 pages like, okay, yeah, okay, you need 2 million in equity. I understand, for a movie with no stars. Okay, I'm not going to read that email. It's too long. So just start straightforward, be straightforward. I mean, that works for Room Ready. For other people, it doesn't. But I think in the film finance world, for most, it will work. Be straightforward. What's the package? What's missing? Very, very, very short, because people don't have time. There's so many projects and people don't want to get financed. So be very straightforward. I think that's the key word here.
Yeah. No, I like it. And when you're straightforward, it also is, it's just more professional. You're not wasting people's time.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Daniel. This has been great, very informative. The information that you shared is extremely valuable. It will go out to a bunch of filmmakers and hopefully make an impact. I appreciate your time and your willingness to kind of come on. And for the filmmakers out there, make sure you like, subscribe, but more importantly, keep going. As Daniel said, keep going. So remember, nothing is wasted, and I'll see you on the next one.
That's cool, man. All right. Thanks a lot.